Hello, and welcome to Retrospective Cinema, a podcast wherein we'll endeavor week after week to see the full filmographies of chosen directors. We'll interpret, critique, and discuss. I am your co-host, Annie Morell.
And I'm your other co-host, Ryan Saylor. Over the next 2 weeks, we continue through Satoshi Kon's filmography with the miniseries, or one-cour anime, Paranoia Agent, that was made in between his third and fourth film. This week, we cover episodes 1 through 7. Here's the clip.
くの字に曲がったバットだったらしいよ。うわー、痛そう。なんだっけ、バット少年？違うよ、少年バットだよ。そうそう、少年バット。バットを振り下ろすとき、ニヤッと笑うんだって。
That was from Paranoia Agent. We're breaking format in a couple ways this week. First of all, this is our first TV show, but obviously integral to Satoshi Kon's filmography. We also are breaking format in that we did not go through a whole work this time. We decided to split up the show into two halves, episodes 1 through 7 this week, and then 8 through 13 next week. This is a first watch for both you and I, and as far as I know, you also stopped at episode 7. Is that correct?
I sure did, yes. As I wrote on the schedule and then promptly forgot and thought we were going to episode 8, but then I checked before I finished.
So, all that to say, we go into this not knowing the whole context. We are a full spoiler podcast, but the spoilers this time will be limited to the first half of the show. With all of that out of the way, what'd you make of this? I'm so curious to dive in because this is a wild show.
It is a wild show. I am glad that we're taking the time to split it up into two. I know our original plan, as you said, was to watch it all in one go, and just for time's sake, I'm glad, because that would have been a hefty week watch. But also, I'm glad that we get a little more time to discuss each individual episode this way, because there's quite a lot here. I think, you had mentioned to me, I can't remember if it was on mic or off mic, that this would probably be more in the vein of Perfect Blue and Millennium Actress, and I see parallels to both, which I thought was very cool, and we'll get into that, I'm sure. It's a show that for me at times kind of overwhelmed me. I think, and maybe we should start with the intro song to every episode.
Yeah, I was sold from the moment I hit play. So I watched this on Crunchyroll. I think you said you did too.
Sure did.
And I've watched a lot of modern anime, and the kind of standard at this point is the first episode doesn't have the OP or opening song and credits, and then by the second episode it does, or maybe at the first episode toward the end it does. But on this one, maybe this is more standard for the time. You hit play and it goes right into the song, and the song is just glorious. It starts with some vocables, some nonsense that isn't translated, and this singer just blasts at you though.
So good.
And then you just get lots of lyrics about the end of the world and mushroom clouds and the nuclear holocaust as characters that you have yet to meet laugh maniacally in your face. And that's your first 90 seconds or so with Paranoia Agent.
Yeah.
Which really set me up for something.
It sure did. We could probably go episode by episode. The first episode in English is called Enter a Little Slugger,
which just took me way too long to realize. So they re-subtitled at some point now that more Japanese is known by more people. And so the subtitles always say shonen bat, like, young boy with a bat, or, what was at some point translated as a little slugger. And I made it too far into the episode before I realized that was just different translations of the same thing.
Mm-hmm. No, I did the same thing, honestly. And it was only when I watched this in two different places, so I ended up accidentally putting on the subtitle, or the dub rather, second episode in, and I was like, Lil Slugger. And then, I realized that, it's the same thing. I like Shonen Bat as the name personally. of the assailant. But yeah, we start out with Tsukiko Sagi, who's a character designer, a rather quiet and kind of strange young woman who kind of keeps to herself and always carries around the cutest toy I've maybe ever seen.
It's so good.
I'm assuming they went ham with making stuffed animals of this thing at the time for marketing purposes, because it's so cute. And of course, it's too cute, and there's too much focus on this at the time inanimate object to believe anything other than it will come to life. And it does for her. Like they talk quite a bit throughout the shows so far, and just as cute animated as an inanimate object. I think initially one thing that I clocked that was really similar to Perfect Blue, and I think I'm assuming this is just what like blog pages were called at the time in Japan, that it's, you know, so and so's room. Like she has a blog that people are asking her questions on, like commenting, her fans are commenting on this blog called Tsukiko's Room. Because, you know, if it's not a thing in Japan, like if that's not a usual thing, then man, yeah, direct parallel.
Yeah, well, either way, Satoshi Kon definitely is playful about his filmography. I don't think we talked about last week, but in Tokyo Godfathers, you can see the posters for both Perfect Blue and Millennium Actress in the background at one point. So I think he's very aware that he's tapping into a lot of the same stuff. I mean, by the time we get to episode 3, that is, you know, that one's Perfect Blue in 20 minutes. So even if that was, you know, what chat rooms were called, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a specific reference.
Throughout this whole series, there's a lot of little moments of really like creative ways of showing or telling information, and one of them is when the frogman journalist who is like trying to butt in on this case, and he at one point talks to Tsukiko about her coworkers bad-mouthing her, and there's this awesome sequence where his face and voice, both his voice completely changes into whoever those coworkers' voices are, and his face kind of changes into them, you know, and a lot of them are women bad-mouthing her, and I thought that was so clever, and it made me hate him also.
Before we get too far in, I think it is worth mentioning, obviously with a show there's going to be more directorial vision involved across people than one. This is about as altruistic as a show can be, I think. I think Satoshi Kon is all over this thing, but there are various episode directors, unit directors throughout. So yeah, the first episode, the episode director was Takayuki Hirao. Most of these names are new to me, and I think they had a lot less say than they would have had in other shows, but you know, just occasionally giving credit where credit's due. I'll throw in their names in each episode. Definitely.
And I do think, you know, as you said, there's an overarching vision that is definitely Kon's, but each episode is a little bit different in the way it's presented.
Especially on this show, the main character almost switches every episode. They take advantage of the format for sure.
Yeah. I think, there's clearly a reason why this was formatted for television and not as a film, because I think it does work a lot better when you know, when you have those automatic designations between story beats in this way. Yeah, so the first episode is Tsukiko, and it ends, the first few episodes end with Lil Slugger / Shonen Bat attacking someone. Although I think that happens midway through her episode, because there's a bit of detective questioning if it even happened to her, which, then it starts happening to other people, and they're still questioning whether it happened to her, and we can get there a little more later. But yeah, that frustrated me personally.
Well, eventually it didn't happen to her. Like, that is confirmed.
I guess I wasn't, because we see that telling kind of through the eyes of the detective, like the chief. Mm-hmm. I personally wasn't sure if, to me, especially because from the beginning he thought she had made it up, it felt like I couldn't necessarily trust that coming from him. But I'm curious to know, like, why you think.
Okay. Yeah, so at this point, I guess after episode 7, jumping ahead a little bit, we don't have the mystery solved. But where we're at is that Shonen Bat, as we know him, Kodo Kozuka, that kid is a copycat criminal, and he saw the first one happen. It seems like the first wound was self-inflicted, which is, the story we're following right now. And then from there, this kid kind of took over. But at that point, we learn that there's probably more than one Shonen Bat, or that Shonen Bat is this, I'm speculating because, again, I don't know the whole story, but maybe some sort of supernatural being. We have, it becomes clear that this assailant appears to people in extreme stress. So, there's still a chance that someone attacked her, but the boy that they were referring to as Shonen Bat did not.
Okay. Yeah. I guess, I agree with you there that it was not the boy. I think that is confirmed by episode 7. But I hope, at least, that there is a better explanation than just, she was really stressed and her character is under deadline to create a new character design. And I understand, that's the point, is that all these victims seem relieved after the fact in a way, because this attack kind of breaks them in one way or another away from whatever was stressing them out or causing them internal turmoil. And so I would understand that motivation on her end, but I personally, the implications of that, of like, oh, this woman just made this up, I'm not sure I love that. So I'm interested to see like where that is taken in the last half of the series, because I trust him at this point. I trust Satoshi Kon at this point with women. Like I do think he has made some complex and interesting female leads, and she she is and she isn't the lead of this, but I trust him, but I am like, where are you going with this, buddy?
No, that's fair. And she definitely is the lead of episode 1, though, which I was talking about how that kind of switches each episode, and I thought that was already neat because his first 2 films, definitely women are the main character. And the third film, 2 of the 3 main characters are women, and this one starts with a woman. So I mean, his ratio of starring women characters is quite high compared to most directors, especially male.
Definitely, which I think is really cool. And there's a lot of commentary, about like what it is to be a woman existing in the world. Like there's that scene with the creepy journalist Frogman where she's wearing a shirt with kind of see-through quality, and you can kind of see her bra, and then they're sitting outside, and this Frogman has this sundae, and there's this whole sequence where he licks the sundae, and it feels like almost like he's licking her, because he's very much talking and looking at her while he's doing this. Yup, the female experience in a nutshell.
So episode 2 from there is The Golden Shoes. It's directed by Takuji Endo. And we shift here for the first time to someone new. We meet Yuichi Taira, who is a 6th grader that suspiciously matches the description of Shonen Bat. So he goes by Ichi, which is just Japanese for 1, like number 1, first place. That kind of equivalent would be an English translation of the idea.
Neo.
Yeah. And Yuichi rollerblades, he swings a bat, he matches the age description, everything for this attacker. And so he starts to get outcast by his classmates and kind of ostracized because people think that it's him. And it's not unreasonable that people start to suspect him, but the way they treat him when he isn't yet guilty, that's where it can start being iffy. But it reaches this interesting subplot because he, at the time, is running for class president, right?
Well, and he's a shoo-in. Like he is the most popular boy in school. Everybody loves him.
And his opponent is kind of this new to school kid that's not very popular. And so Ichi decides that this kid has started this rumor and set him up, and from there he starts to kind of lose it as he goes deeper and deeper, trying to prove that this other kid caused this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great stuff on perception here. I mean, from the things I've already talked about, but also as Ichi starts to kind of attack Shogo, Ushiyama is the other boy. There's video of it that gets out, and so that just kind of like makes everyone double down. And yeah, it's interesting seeing how this progresses. And it got me thinking, you know, like, yeah, especially if you were a child and this boy in your class matched every description, how hard it would be, especially with the way kids are, to not pile on.
And meanwhile, Shogo is just the nicest little child.
Yes.
The picture comes out of Ichi bullying Shogo, and Shogo's immediately like, we need to stop being so mean to Ichi. And Ichi hates that, of course. This character, this one cracked me up the most of any of the episodes, because it's the way that they present Yuichi is his outward facing persona is, yeah, this perfect boy, very nice, everybody loves him. He has this kind of signature sparkling smile that they come back to a lot in the episode. And then there's this inner monologue, because I don't think this inner monologue personally showed up just because of the accusation that he is shown in Bat. I think this has always existed in him. And it's this, sociopathic inner monologue. At one point he says, you know, like, don't underestimate me, you pig, in his own mind, to Shogo. Keeps calling Shogo fat because he's this chubby little kid. And there's this great lighting change every time he goes into this internal monologue. It gets like really dark and kind of scary, and his face changes into something a lot like sharper. And yeah, I fully think he's a sociopath. Because he's got like narcissistic tendencies. You know, he loves being great. And as soon as people start turning against him, that side of him really starts to come out even more, and starts to break through, I think, even from the internal place that it mostly exists.
Well,
at the start.
It's interesting because, I mean, this, you know, obviously these are extreme circumstances, but this is kind of like the textbook popular kid. And all of the, you know, psychoanalytical stuff that comes with that is presented for how he behaves and how he thinks of himself. And there aren't many circumstances, at least in real life, where that is ripped away, where, you know, the most popular kid becomes the least popular overnight. And it's an interesting exploration of what that, you know, would look like from that perspective, and what that might do to you psychologically. I will say this is the one thing that I almost do love, the idea that there isn't an initial attack in the first episode, because that does make this kid outcast for nothing. If there isn't an actual shonen bat up front at all, I think it is a really interesting idea that the human need for a perpetrator of violence, you know, someone to blame, causes all of this. So yeah, I obviously won't be disappointed if there is, you know, someone that actually attacked Sakiko in the first episode, but I do think that is the one thing that is made more interesting if no one did attack her.
No, that does make sense. So once we get to Ichi, the next episode is about his tutor, and so there's a direct connection between those two victims, and then from there, you know, there are more and more direct connections.
Right. The tutor is a sex worker, and one of her clients is someone we follow, and then we follow that guy's daughter, and yeah, you're right that eventually we have this whole tapestry going on. But at this point, yeah, we'd fully shifted. And so as Yuichi grows more and more frustrated and kind of gets a little crazy, thinking about, you know, how this affects his life and people's perception of him, he gets attacked by Shonen Bat, which inadvertently proves his innocence, because it's like, okay, well, he didn't attack himself, although someone may have already.
They're walking together, and Shogo gets attacked, and Ichi is kind of like, well, this isn't great because I was there. And then Ichi later gets attacked because he's been pushed into this corner, you know. And I think for Shogo, we get a little bit of his backstory. He is, as you said, this transfer student. He's new to school, and he talks to Ichi about how, yeah, I had a lot of trouble fitting in my last school, which is why I transferred. And now I'm just like challenging myself to really put myself out there and run for class president. I loved this character, if you can't tell. And now I think he's feeling this turmoil because he doesn't want to be hurting Ichi, or for anyone, it appears, to be in a bullying kind of position. But also Ichi is very mean to him. Like, there's a point where I think in that walk before Shogo gets attacked, Ichi just kind of dresses him down because, like, I was being bullied discreetly before, and now everybody knows. Like, you didn't let me deal with this by myself. And yeah, that, to me, that's why Shogo then gets attacked, because he's kind of, I can see where his character would think, yeah, I'm pushing myself, I'm doing everything right, I'm being a nice person, I'm being a good person, and I am still in a problem area at this point. So then he gets attacked, and then, yeah, Ichi gets attacked soon after that incident. And then, yeah, he's happy. He's actually happy that he got attacked. You know, similar, like, this is a theme throughout. Everyone is sort of relieved when they get attacked. And for Ichi, the reason is it exonerates him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tsukiko gets to avoid her deadline. Yuichi gets to be proven innocent and kind of regain his social standing. It's very interesting. And if the show develops and Shonen Bat is a force more than an actual attacker, I wouldn't be surprised because of that.
Yeah. And I think there's already a good amount of evidence once we get to like episodes 6 and 7 to support that idea that he's more of a force and less of just a physical person. Moving on to episode 3.
Yeah, Double Lips. Unit director is again Takagi Endo. So we meet our new main character, which, yeah, we had met her in the previous episode, Harumi Chono
/ Maria.
Yes, is a tutor by day, Maria, her alter ego, sex worker by night, and she's trying to get away from that alternate persona, but it's starting to consume her. Yeah, felt very familiar, as I talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, it's Perfect Blue again. Kind of, but not really, because she is actually both people. She clearly has dissociative identity disorder, which is the proper term now, and in case folks don't know, for like multiple personalities. And they communicate via voicemail. So, you know, Harumi will leave Maria a voicemail and vice versa, and they'll listen when they regain their consciousness or regain control of the body.
And send faxes one time.
Yeah. And it's clear, you know, Harumi wants to get married. There's someone she works at the library with who asks her to marry him. And so she is very much like, yeah, I'm going to do that. And Maria, I'm going to throw out all your stuff and not do that anymore. And then I won't have to tell him. And she does. She has a psychologist. And she asks, do you think I better tell him about this whole thing? Which I'm like, yeah, girl. Yeah, you should probably tell him, because you clearly don't have it under control, first of all. And yeah, it does ultimately, you know, he finds out about Maria because Maria calls him. I did have a question because, and I think I know the answer. Are there 2 personas or are there 3? Because at the end, when she is having a physical fight with herself out in the street, when we see her delusions or her imagination, it is her as Harumi, her as Maria with the short hair. And then there's Maria's sex worker persona within, / maybe a different persona that has like the little beauty mark and the long straight hair.
Yeah, so I think there's multiple sides of Maria, which I thought was an interesting way of Harumi kind of feeling overpowered. Like there was almost more to Maria than herself, which you know, as she felt like she was losing herself, I think that really manifests in the fact that she spends time as Maria and other Maria, and yeah, you're right, is attacked by both of them later, and there's really only one of her. So it kind of lets the audience in on her feeling of being outnumbered, even though it's still just herself.
Yeah. And by the end of this episode, so she has this like fight in the street, and makeup is clearly a way that she transforms into her different personalities. but she has this sort of clown makeup on, lipstick smeared, and then just an absurd amount of foundation, and she looks very much like a clown when she is found in the street after she has this fight with herself. Rather, she's hit by Shonen Bat and then found in the street a little later from being attacked. But by the end of this, I kind of realized in these first 3 episodes that we have 3 different kinds of mentally ill people. So Harumi obviously has dissociative identity disorder. Yuichi, as I said, I believe is a sociopath. I think that's pretty defensible. And then Tsukiko, the detectives really make a lot of like, this girl is really strange. And I think, maybe the one kind of thing that I can say is she definitely does talk to and imagines a stuffed animal as alive. So there are clearly mental things happening with all 3 characters that get attacked, or at least ostensibly get attacked, since, we don't know about Tsukiko. And yeah, I thought that was interesting. That and it is ultimately their mental illness for the 2 who definitely got attacked that kind of leads them to be cornered and then attacked by Shonen Bat and kind of relieved from that.
Yeah.
Because Maria calls the fiance, and so the fiance's like, who's Maria? And she's kind of like, oh no, it's ruined now, without actually just talking to this man about, her reality.
I think just she fears, how it's gonna all go down with him, and now she has the focus shifted. It's gone from, I've hid this whole other side of my life to I'm being attacked by this very popular, I guess for lack of better phrasing, assailant running around. So he saves her in that way. One thing that I did want to just briefly acknowledge within this episode is her first client continues Satoshi Kon's takedown of weeb culture and otaku culture. We saw that a lot in Perfect Blue, but yeah, we have this client that has this physical woman in front of her that he's having sex with and is fantasizing about his figures and like talking to her as, she's the figures, and like lets her get up and just keeps talking to her. It's just a mess. Mm-hmm. And
absolutely wild to both hire a sex worker and also still have to fantasize in a different way, like with your figurines all lined up and multiple. Like it's not even that he focused on one. It was 3 different characters, I believe, little action figures.
Like, you guys did great tonight.
Yeah, especially you. Yeah, one of them I think had maybe the most starring role of the 3. Yeah, I did. I liked that too. I don't know if, because I'm not as attuned or tuned into weeb culture, I don't think I clocked that. But now that you say it, I'm like, yeah, that's absolutely what that was.
I think this is the most explicit of revisiting themes from Satoshi Kon's other films, and yeah, specifically Perfect Blue, which then had me kind of thinking about this as something like a Twin Peaks: The Return, where yeah, at the end, it ended up being David Lynch's final work. I don't know if it was going to be, but he just took from all of his films and brought them in. There's one episode where I was like, wow, it's Eraserhead 2 right now. And yeah, I guess, we don't have to dive into all that right now, but I do like this kind of concept of directors taking from all of their films and expanding on the themes in a television series. I'd be curious to see, if there's more out there.
Yeah, not a director, but what that reminds me of, Kurt Vonnegut does that, where like characters from Slaughterhouse-Five and I'm blanking on the other book show up in Breakfast of Champions. Breakfast of Champions is like this amalgamation of several of his characters interacting, and yeah, I like that. I don't see why not, why you shouldn't be able to do that, as long as I think there's a very much a difference between just like retreading old territory and using characters and worlds that you've previously constructed to make new and different points. And I do think that that's happening here as well.
Yeah. Episode 4, A Man's Path, which, I guess we haven't even talked about this, but the episode titles appear in the actual environment each time in some way or another. And this was probably my favorite because there's like a movie poster in the background, and it like is written in big fancy kanji. Our episode director this time is Atsushi Takahashi. And yes, so now we follow Masami Hirokawa, who has become, I mean, at the point that we're actually at in the show, much more of a main character than I thought he'd be. But this was our first time really spending time with him, and he is not great.
He is a corrupt guy, just trying to get money from the mob and not pay them back in order. But the way he justifies it is through there's quite a different animation style that's used for parts of this episode when they flash to this. It's this manga that this character reads that kind of helps him justify his terrible actions. It helps him frame them as noble actions rather than just kind of selfish and cowardly, as I believe they truly are. And it's this, in the manga, it's this kind of lone wolf character, but his reality is that he does have a wife and child to take care of and to build their dream house and all of that. Yeah, I enjoyed the juxtaposition of those two things. I think it helps to explain, I still don't like his character, but I think it helps to explain his character's motivation very effectively.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's fair. I'm getting ahead of myself, because on this episode, he's kind of comes across as just someone in way over his head, but then, yeah, eventually we find out that he's taking photos of his underage daughter for profit.
Yeah.
So retroactively, my opinion is in the toilet. But you're right that at this point in the show,
yes,
he seems, like he just has made one too many bad deals, and is in way over his head.
Well, and he was a client of Maria's. That's how we get to him as well. And he asks her and other sex workers that he sees throughout this episode to call him daddy. Ugh.
Yeah, which again, retroactively, goodness.
Yeah, retroactively awful, terrible stuff.
So his attack is, interesting because he again is under this extreme stress, and then the human shonen bat Makoto Kazuka, who we're going to talk about a lot in one episode from now, when he attacks Hirokawa, fails to take him out, and so then from there, because Hirokawa is this police officer, Kozuka gets arrested, and that's gonna be what leads to the next one. I mean, he gets in worse and worse because the guy that he owes money to is like, oh, you owe me 1 million yen. Like we agreed 2 million. Like we agreed 5 million. And so he starts doing more and more to try to, quote unquote, protect his family from that whole side of things falling apart or getting to them. So eventually he's like robbing from people, and
it culminates in him robbing a family who says, oh, that it took us 20 years to save up that money, as he's taking the money from the safe while simultaneously imagining himself as the lone wolf who is saving, I believe, a baby. In the manga sections, it flashes back and forth between those. And to the point where their daughter comes home while this robbery is happening. And it does not affect him at all because he's so far down this path of corruption that he doesn't even realize, like, oh, wow, I'm doing this to a family that looks a lot like my own.
Right.
So, already not a great guy, and he's about to have an even worse look.
Yeah, so episode 5, The Holy Warrior, episode director Nanako Shimazaki.
So different.
Yes, the work takes a huge divergence, and I was most curious out of all of them to talk about this one with you, because I think this worked for me to a point. I think eventually I was, kind of like, I get it, and we're still here in Dragon Quest.
Yes.
But yeah, how'd you handle this thing? This huge departure?
Well, I think similarly, it very much becomes a style of anime that I don't, more in the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure type world where people have powers and there are monsters, and not my genre generally. But I thought it was initially an interesting way of motivating this character who we think is Shonen Bat, Makoto, as far as why he's attacking these people, because he thinks that he is a holy warrior. That the episode title is The Holy Warrior.
Right.
And he is trying to hunt down an enemy called Goma, who possesses other creatures in this world.
Which I think I understood that reference. Goma is the first boss in Ocarina of Time and in other Legend of Zelda games.
Oh, no way. Okay. Interesting. So, yeah, I think similar to you, I sort of got the point of it at a certain point, and then we continue to be in this world. I think what I appreciated about this format was that it reminded me a lot of, in Millennium Actress, you have this person who is creating this world in their kind of mind space. In Millennium Actress, it's our main character, the actress. And here it's Makoto who's doing that. And there are these two guys, and one of them is very into the world and kind of immerses himself and takes it all in stride, this other kind of imagined world. And then the other one is like, what are we doing? This is stupid. Why are we doing this? I don't understand, which is exactly what happens in Millennium Actress with those interviewers, or with the interviewer and the camera guy. And so I appreciated it for that. I think it had a little more gas because of that. But then, yeah, ultimately, we just kind of went through a few times what happened when I think we only needed it is I was looking at the ratings for these first 7 episodes on just IMDb, and this episode is definitely significantly the lowest rated, and I would have to assume that that's why that a lot of people felt similarly. Yeah, I did like that Harumi shows up, the tutor shows up at one point, and her like butterfly monster persona in this world has a moon sapphire necklace, and then in the real world she has 2 like sapphire or moon sapphire earrings. So I like that little detail.
Yeah, that's cool.
It reached a point of diminishing returns, I'd say.
So Paranoia Agent as a whole needs to take a moment to talk about what Makoto did or didn't do. So we go back through each of the victims, and we learn that, he didn't have anything to do with Tsukiko, and it goes all the way up to his capture. And so, yeah, I'm not even sure how to handle it quite differently, because there's a lot of ground to cover. Oh, and I do I guess I should say, I really enjoyed the moment where he gets captured, being represented as his character gains smushed, and then he gets a game over screen.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really cute and silly. But yeah, if there was a way to shorten this to maybe half an episode and do something with the other half, probably be, ideal in my opinion. Because yeah, similar to you, I think there was eventually like, okay, I get it. I'd like to get back to the main story. But yeah, it's interesting. I respect the goal to kind of, have such a strange divergence of an episode. Episode 6 is Fear of a Direct Hit. The episode director is Kojiro Soroka. And yeah, this episode's a little more fragmented. We're kind of in a couple places at once. So yeah, the detectives, who I don't think I've named yet, Ikari and Manuwa, start investigating a possible lead, and they meet with this old woman, and we explore a little bit of homelessness in Japan. That one's back from his previous film, which we did actually see this person in the first episode, which I thought was kind of cool, because I'd kind of forgotten by this point. I was like, oh yeah, she was there. She talks about what she saw that night with Tsukiko's attack, and we kind of get the logistics, at least at this point in the story, of how that might have happened without Makoto being there. And then in the midst of this, we keep cutting back to this other character that we're meeting for the first time, Teiko, who is the daughter of Hirakawa. And
yes, the corrupt cop. Just there are a lot of names, so
yeah, sure, no, fair enough. We get her life up to this moment, and it's just miserable because yeah, she's presented as such a happy child and just such a big fan of her father. And there's a lot of scenes that could, kind of be played either way. Like we get that classic, like, when I grow up, I'm gonna marry you, and
yeah, I'm gonna be your bride.
Her dad's like, well, I'm married to your mom, blah blah blah, but okay. And we come to find out that, yeah, what I was talking about earlier, that she stumbles upon that she's been recorded by her father, undressing. And I don't know that we fully got what this was for. And I guess there is, some leeway. There's a chance this is, blackmail by one of his business partners. But presumably
I think it's him, but
okay. Yeah, no, I think so too. But just saying there's a chance.
There is a possibility. Yes.
Yeah, but presumably this is her father's doing, and then it just makes everything we've seen prior really sad. We almost get right back to the suicide on the bridge from Tokyo Godfathers as well.
Yeah, so I actually have a question on Teiko, because how we kind of get to starting the tale of Teiko's story is through the old woman talking about her granddaughter. Is that her granddaughter? Is Teiko her granddaughter, or is that just?
Yeah, I was a little confused as well. I think it's one of those things where either yes, or like in Millennium Actress, the stories just perfectly are aligning to where that we can assume all of this is happening to Teiko as well.
Well, and in the midst of all of this, in the midst of Teiko having this horrible realization that someone, probably her dad, she definitely thinks it's her dad, is recording her, she destroys the camera that was recording her. A typhoon is rolling in.
Right. Yeah, she's praying for justice. She's like, let this whole thing get washed away, and it does.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So her home gets destroyed, and then she's kind of, as you said, she's on this bridge, kind of in a maybe attempting suicide state, asking to be empty so that she can forget this abuse, forget this horrifying realization that she's had. And who comes along but our friend Shonen Bat, ready to give that to her. And the way that manifests for her is that she has amnesia as a result of this attack, or at least that's what we're led to believe, that it's as a result of this attack. She has amnesia, and she's also just kind of a, no thoughts girl now.
Right, yeah.
Just kind of sitting there and smiling. Who are you? I don't care.
She looks like the characters in the opening, which is foreboding for where our characters are headed, knowing that there are more episodes.
Yeah, on, I guess, briefly jumping back to episode 5, on that, I did notice a parallel. Obviously, all of them are laughing in the intro sequence that plays at the beginning of every episode. But I did notice such a parallel in the way that Shonen Bat, or rather, I guess Makoto and the old man are both kind of laughing in the same way. They both have a really similar face. And I think there's also kind of parallels between the younger woman and the older woman as well. So, because we're only halfway through, I feel like these are clues that I don't quite understand yet, but worth pointing them out at this point, I think, still.
Yeah, that old man comes back a lot in the next episode, so we could talk about him, but we probably could just talk about him now. Also, there's this guy that weaves in and out of the story that's writing the great formula for everything. Maybe he's just writing on the ground, and every time we see his answer, it lines up with something happening in the story. Like at one point, he gets the number 1 when Ichi's story is happening. Yeah, I'm not sure where it's headed. I think we'll get more of him as the show goes on, but I have no idea.
Since we're talking about him, I have a question for you. So at the end of each episode, the beginning, you have the option to either watch through the incredible opening song every time,
or skip it every time.
You watch it every time. I watched it like 3 of the times. Only because it overwhelmed me.
Singing along as much as I can and dancing in my chair. It's a fantastic opening.
A peek behind the curtain. I had not watched any of this show yet, and Ryan texted me this voice message, and he said it's not a spoiler, but it's gonna make no sense if you listen to it now. And so I waited until I started watching the show, and it was just the rayas. So good.
You don't want to give your best vocal board?
Raya. Yeah, it was that. It really, like, truly, if for some reason you're listening to this and you haven't watched it, and you're not planning on watching this show, at least look up
Yeah.
the theme song.
The song's name is so good. Did you ever happen across the name of the song?
No, what's the song's name?
Track is named Dream Island Obsessional Park.
Okay. Yeah, that makes as mumuch sense as the rest of the lyrics.
Yeah, it's a pile of kanji, so I assume that's our best attempt to translate that.
Wow, yeah, because the lyrics are not catchy in English, let me tell you. Nor would I expect them to be. But anyway, back to my original point, which was, you have the option on Crunchyroll to skip the beginning song if you want. You also have the option to skip what they call a preview at the end of each episode. And again, anime is not a medium that I am super familiar with. And so maybe this is very normal in like any given series or miniseries like this. But at the end, there's, they call it a preview. You can skip it. I did skip it every time. And it's the old man in his like magician suit, which we do see
on the moon.
Yeah. Oh yeah. On the moon. Yeah. I forgot. On the moon. And I didn't watch it, so I don't know. It seems like cryptic preview of what's to come, potentially. Did you watch those?
Yeah. Okay, so answering your implicit question. So I think every anime, as far as I know, does this like next episode preview thing, which I think just kind of shows do in general. Like even American shows will be like, next week on blah, blah, blah.
They don't animate a whole different...
Yes, that's what I was going to say. This show, I mean, so the way different shows do things just depends. Like Hunter x Hunter has this very silly, like a chibi style where they, talk about things, and sometimes they do vocab until the show gets really dark. And anyway, this one though, yeah, we have this man on the moon discussing our characters, and he gives them all like archetypal animalistic names. None of them have their names when he's talking about them. And so, yeah, I didn't watch them because I didn't want the preview. Like I'm watching each episode sequentially anyway, but I got a taste of one of them, and yeah, they're really interesting. And if it is fitting in the same way that I'm talking about this old man, he knows too much. he's some kind of god figure, but who knows?
Yeah. Well, and because in Makoto's medieval video game world, he is like this wise man.
Right.
So that totally lines up. He's a man that Makoto goes to like for information at one point in that sequence. Anyway, that's okay. I'm glad to know, because it said preview, and like you said, I was the same way. I knew I would be watching them back to back or so, and so I skipped them, not wanting to be spoiled on the next episode. But I did think that was something I've never seen before.
Yeah,
is creating a whole different kind of cryptic sequence in order to preview the next episode. I like that. I like that creativity. I am not certain of the timeline of when Teiko is attacked, because it seems like they say like, oh, he can be there. He can be whenever anyone feels cornered, he shows up right at that right time. One of the detectives says, and he can be in multiple places at once in order to fulfill this. And it kind of seems like, like Teiko's attack happens. Yeah, maybe while he's in jail, but also maybe while another attack is happening. Episode 6 was very like fragmented in its structure, and so I think I got a little confused as to the timeline of events.
Yeah,
but that was my takeaway.
Yeah, no, that's fair, and I think you're right that there could be more even going on than just Teiko. But I think the big thing the detectives realize right there that then leads to episode 7 is that someone is attacked while their suspect Makoto is detained. So there's no way for him to have done that, which leads to episode 7, which is Megahertz, which is spelled MHZ. Episode director Hiroshi Hamasaki. And now with this new information, the detectives are trying to figure out how that's possible. We kind of go from there.
Yeah, and we kind of start near the beginning of episode 7. The younger detective, not the chief, cracks an egg, and it's a double yolked egg. And so you kind of think, well, what could this mean? Because there are a lot of doubles throughout so far. I think not only the most obvious is that, maybe there are 2 shonen bats. Maybe the person that they have in custody is not shonen bat, I think we can interpret it that way. Obviously, there's the parallel to Maria's personalities, that kind of 2-in-1 special, that she contains multitudes inside of her, much like the egg contains multiple yolks. And even Ichi, I think, has these kind of two personas, his popular persona and his internal, very vengeful, very unfeeling persona.
Yeah, well, now that you say that, maybe all of our characters, because, Hirakawa sees himself as this, like, manga character, but is who he is.
Makoto
sees himself as the holy warrior. Yeah, maybe Teiko's the first one that isn't that, but, I mean, she becomes someone new through her almost lobotomization. I don't know how else to phrase
the blank
that.
slate.
Yeah.
That is given to her by Shonen Bat. Yeah. Wow. I hadn't really connected all of that, but ooh, double yolked egg.
There's 2 of us on this podcast. No, I'm just kidding.
Ooh. He knew.
He knew.
All these years later.
Bravo, Cone.
Yeah. We've been saying he's ahead of his time in many ways.
Okay, so here's where I'm diving into theory, and this is the kind of thing that you only get when you stop in the middle of something and talk with me. But megahertz is a measurement for transmission, like radio waves. So an invisible transmission that we receive. We get a lot of staticky shots of the old man at the start of this episode. So is he transmitting, to these people to make things happen? Is that where we're gonna go with this? That's what I'm going with for now.
Okay. I mean, again, I think there is the fact that Makoto has this weird parallel to the old man. I think there is something there, and maybe fits into what you're saying. So yeah, I think I'm at a point where I am so. It's similar watching experience to Perfect Blue, where I just kind of let go. And now I'm just like, okay, take me where you want to take me, story. I'm ready.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's fair. It's I go half and half, because I think it is so fun to just see where this is going, but also we are getting these little breadcrumbs, so it's like where are we being taken? This is more of a solvable mystery, I think, than Perfect Blue, and so I'm here to try to solve it a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, I hope we get an answer.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, we get this sequence, the younger detective, who is, by the end of the episode, told to take some time off because he's so obsessed. It's consuming him, this mystery. We get this dream sequence with the younger detective where he sees this mysterious old man as a magician, and he's doing these series of really impressive illusions on stage. And one of them is that he walks through a wall.
Right.
He puts himself through a wall, and then the crowd becomes all the old men, and it's this kind of nightmare, and he wakes up and he has another nightmare later on that he got attacked by Shonen Bat. He wakes up and we realize that's not real. I think the biggest thing that happens in this episode is that someone, Shonen Bat, a force, breaks into the jail and kills Makoto. They find the bloody bat, the bloody golden bat, and Makoto dead. And they do see that these two detectives see what appears to be Shonen Bat, and he disappears through a wall after committing this murder.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, it's like there's something there where with Shonen Bat and this old man kind of paralleling each other in some of their actions. The room, you were talking about the old man broadcasting, because he has his little broadcast room.
Right.
But then by the end, the young detective finds the room in his own apartment and starts broadcasting. Any thoughts on that? Because I don't know. I don't understand. That's how the episode ends.
True. Yeah, no, I didn't think about it, I guess. I thought he'd like found it somehow, and we'll maybe get back to that, but are you saying it's in his own house?
I thought that's what happened. He wakes up, I think, from the nightmare about getting attacked by Shonen Bat. He opens up this closet door, and then he sits down at the exact same setup that the old man has
Hmm.
in this closet with all these electronics surrounding him.
I mean, I think this was a fun stopping point. I mean, we just kind of picked somewhere in the middle. Obviously, it was either going to be 6 or 7. But I like this spot because Makoto's dead, but Shonen Bat's still out there. We have a lot of victims, but not a lot of answers, and the detectives, that kind of went all in on this way that it could have happened, even though there's questions to be had, now are fully sure that they don't have the answer. So I'm excited to see what comes next. I'm at the point in any good mystery. I'm hoping this sticks the landing.
Yeah.
But I feel like it will, I have enough trust in Kon and his art at this point.
I'm looking at the episode titles for the next stretch that we're watching for the rest of the series, and the last episode is called The Final Episode.
Good.
So big confidence there.
Well, obviously we're not done with it, but at least up to this point, would you recommend the show?
So far, yeah. I think I think if you can handle Perfect Blue, that's certainly a great litmus test for whether this would be enjoyable for you.
Sure.
But I think it's not unapproachable at the same time. I'm intrigued. I love a good mystery, and this is definitely a good mystery. I think the character design is lovely so far. I like the initial structure of focusing on one particular person, and now I think we're starting to see that breakdown, but maybe not. Maybe we'll still focus. I guess even episode 7 was really about the young detective. I think was probably our focus. So yeah, so far, absolutely, I would recommend it. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's so neat. I'm thoroughly enjoying this thing. I think if you are a Satoshi Kon fan, I was talking to my friend Michael, who has definitely watched all the movies. He's a big fan. He's rewatched a number of the movies. Perfect Blue and Millennium Actress are in his favorite films of all time. And he was like, man, am I finally going to watch Paranoia Agent because you guys are doing the podcast? He's like, but watching things is so hard. It's like, I get that, sitting down with a show is just more of an investment. But yeah, if you're a fan of Kon, definitely hit this up. But even if you aren't, I think if you're into television, I think this is a really fun format. I thoroughly enjoyed, just each episode introducing us to someone new and going from there. I think, yeah, you're right that episode 7 is kind of the first time where that is starting to break apart, and maybe that won't happen as we go forward. But yeah, getting, a mini complete story in addition to the furthering of the main story each time was neat. And I thought everyone's different tales were engaging and exciting. And yeah, there hasn't been one other than, eventually being a little tired of the styling of Makoto's story that has been lesser than the others. So yeah, I think this is great so far. And if it sticks the landing, absolutely, I recommend this.
Wow. Well, next week, big surprise, we are finishing Paranoia Agent episodes 8 through 13. So if you're here now, I highly recommend you come back and hear us finish, because we could be wrong. This could face plant. I doubt it. I really doubt it. I too have a lot of trust. Yeah, it would take a lot of bad choices from this point to make it not a recommend. But yeah, so we're tackling the second half next week. In the meantime, if you have your own theories, if you're watching the same pace we are, if you're only halfway through and you have a really different theory than us, if you just want to talk, as Ryan always says, we have an email, retrospectivecinemapodcast@gmail.com. We can also be found on Instagram and TikTok at retro_sin, CIN. And I can be found on Letterboxd at Annie Morell.
I'm also on Letterboxd at Ryan Loves Film. I'm pacing them out because, we just put up some promotional content on TikTok today. Well, Annie clipped the Die Hard debate from the last episode, which I'm glad to have immortalized. But yeah, over the next couple days, I'll be putting some thoughts up. I just saw Mercy right before we recorded. So that, that's exciting. It's not as bad as I thought it would be until it becomes worse than I ever could have imagined. And
Whoa.
then tonight, because I'm a huge fan of Silent Hill 2. I think it's one of the greatest games of all time, and I think it's a game that basically everyone should play, even if you aren't into video games. I am seeing the film and adaptation tonight, Return to Silent Hill, which has got unanimous hatred, so that's exciting. We'll see what happens.
Or I believe you referred to this combo as Timu Barbenheimer. That sounds about right, based on what you're saying.
Yeah, me and my friend Nick, best friend, roommate, lifelong bud, all the things, have done a number of film adventures, and we did Barbenheimer together. We dressed up for the occasion, and I could probably find that picture and post it somewhere. We were trying to do a double feature for this. It got split up because Silent Hill already is down to like 3 screenings on day 2 of its release. It's just it's hard out here. That's all over the place. But whether you are catching up with those great January releases, or now, by the time you're hearing this, seeing Sam Raimi's film, I got that wrong last week, or watching the second half of Paranoia Agent, whatever you're doing, happy watching.
I have no further contribution this time, for once.